Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Okay guys, I've got a post here from the Cointelegraph which I just wanted to go through. Shout out to Nutjack for bringing this to my attention. I think this is just a good thing to cover because this just shows you how, crypto media can just get things wrong. And sometimes you have got to be careful with the information that you take in. Now, let me just make this clear. Like, I'm by no means an expert when it comes to all this stuff. I'm an investor, right? And I'm someone who's done my research. The thing is for me is I do try my best to give accurate information, but I'm not perfect. So it's not to say that I can't make mistakes, but I think when you're a crypto media outlet, I think, you've got to try and be careful. And if you do get things wrong, you've got to then acknowledge that, right? For me, if I do get things wrong and I'm clear of that, I've made that mistake, I will clear it up in the future. That's fine because I can admit that, hey, maybe I do get things wrong. Maybe there's something I've misinterpreted, whatever. And I think this is the thing that happens with a lot of these like influencers or, these crypto media outlets. Like, they don't want to acknowledge any kind of accountability or responsibility. And that's the problem with this. But let's get into it. So Cointelegraph, they say, research. Blockchains don't just need to agree on transactions. They also need to be fair about who goes first. But perfect fairness is impossible because different computers see transactions in different orders, so they can't all agree every time. Hashgraph tried using median timestamps to fix this, but one bad node can still change the order. Newer systems like Aquitas, I think that's how it's pronounced, Aquitas and Themis solve this by grouping conflicting transactions instead of forcing a strict first to arrive rule. Can blockchains ever be truly fair or only, quote, fair enough, unquote? Okay, so first and foremost, we've got HBAR Tata here. Shout out to HBAR Tata, by the way. He's someone, if you're like in the, the HBAR community, he's definitely someone you want to follow. He's really good. I have to give him his props here. But he says, okay, what a bizarre criticism to make about the hashgraph considering the general state of fairness throughout crypto. Calling Hedera's fair timestamping, quote, weak, unquote, completely misses the point. The medium resists outliers by design. It's a strength, not a weakness. One bad node can't rewrite time. Hedera currently has 31 validators, not 5, and more will be added in the future. Perfect fairness is impossible for any DLT, but Hedera delivers the most practical version of it. Well said. Well said, HBAR Tata. Really great stuff to see there. And so I've got some other points of what people have said here, and they've all really broke this down really good, and they've all called like Cointelegraph out for this. You've got Ryan Solomon as well, King Solomon. He's a content creator if you're not aware. He also straight away said, who sponsored this post? So this is where like people are starting to think that maybe they're being paid to try and spread FUD, which, some people might think that sounds crazy, but let me tell you something. With the XRP community, this is actually a fact. There were people in the Bitcoin community who were paying people to spread FUD about XRP back in the day. This is actually true. So it's not that wild a thing to think, in all honesty. It's really not that crazy. And I'll be honest with you, Cointelegraph have been very negative about XRP in the past as well. So this kind of stuff, I'm not putting it past them at all. But we've got also here some other people talking about it. So we've got here Iron, and he says, incorrect. Let me break it down. Let's say there were 30 nodes. That's 30 independent timestamps. Let's assume 29 good nodes give a timestamp of around 1030. Let's assume that a bad node gave a bad timestamp of 1020, so 10 minutes behind. The median of all timestamps is still 1030. That's how maths work. Median is not the same as mean. Median ignores outliers, mean does not. Again, beautifully put here. And this is like where I say, like, the thing with stuff like this is if people aren't well versed in crypto, let's say they're just new to crypto and they think, oh, Cointelegraph, it's a crypto outlet, so they're going to be clued up. These are going to be people who know what they're talking about. People just take this information as just gospel, right? Like that's the thing. And, like, again, this is not me saying that people can't get things wrong. That's not the point. It's all about trying to own up to your mistakes, right? Like if we look at, all the responses that have come off of the back of this post, a lot of people are like calling them out about it and showing them, hey, this is incorrect. You've not got this right. You don't understand what you're saying. For me, what I would expect them to do at that point is write a new post and actually correct the error. Acknowledge that, okay, we made a mistake in this article. Here's us correcting that. and acknowledging the fault, right? That's what I would think you would do. But they're not doing that. And that's to me where like the issue comes in. It's not necessarily the fact that they made a mistake. I understand that everybody's making a mistake. Crypto's still very new and people are still learning, myself included. So I understand that. It's about how you actually deal with it. It's about the accountability of it, right? And so, yeah, a lot of people have called these guys out for this. And, you know, they've not really responded. And that's the one good thing I'll say about, you know, having like Twitter and stuff. Like, even though, yes, they can put these things out, you've got the comment sections. You've got people who can actually, you know, check them on this kind of stuff. So at least if people are willing to look further than just what the Cointelegraph have written, then they'll see in the comments like, oh, okay, this is inaccurate. But again, you have surface readers, right? You have people who will just read the post and won't bother reading the comments. So they just see it and then that's what they believe at that point. So yeah, for me, this is where, again, trying to cut out this kind of stuff, and this is why I'm just covering it. It's just to try and, you know, get into debunking some of these narratives that are just incorrect, because obviously people might be believing this stuff and thinking that that is actually, you know, the real truth. Now, we've got one other thing here from HBAR Tata as well. He says, here are Leemon Baird's thoughts on hashgraph's consensus timestamps, also how Hedera could be used as a clock for the universe. So, yeah, in regards to this, this is a really good video. Again, if you want to watch it, it's on HBAR Tata's timeline. It's like 5 minutes long, but he explains how, like, even if, let's just say, clocks were to just completely crash on computers, the hash graph will still work. They'll still be able to do everything they need to do. It's not just based on time anyway. So he's basically saying how time doesn't necessarily have to be like the factor that they go by when they're doing this kind of thing. So it just shows you that it's not really just based on that time specific factor anyway. But yeah, like, Leemon Baird obviously just crushes the whole debate at that point. And again, like, you know, this is where Cointelegraph could just see these kinds of things and just change it. But this is what I'll say. I look at, like, mainstream media and crypto media, they're the same at this point, right? Like, mainstream media, let's be honest, it's a very dying thing, you know, like, it's still going to always have an audience. Like, I don't think it's something that will just die completely, but people don't really trust mainstream media anymore, and rightfully so, because there's biases there, clearly. So people prefer to, like, watch things on, you know, YouTube and stuff like that, because it's independent, you know, it's people who are just doing things, you know, more straight down the middle. Now, don't get me wrong, you can get people who might still have a bias, you know, that can still happen, but I think you get a lot more, you know, integrity in the independent side of things as to when you go to, like, mainstream media. And I think that's the same with crypto media. Like, it's that point now where, you know, there can be incentives there can be things where, you know, people might be holding a certain crypto, so they might want to prop up one, you know, network over putting down another network and things like that. Like, we're at that point now where crypto is getting that big that, yeah, there are going to be people who may have incentives as to why they write things in a certain way. They might have biases and things like that. So I do think you just have to be very careful. The only thing I'll say is, like I say, anybody can make mistakes, so that's not to really, you know, give too much heat on that. I think it's more about, you know, correcting those mistakes. It's about making sure that you acknowledge, okay, we got this wrong. This is what we really need to do. Okay, we got this wrong. This is what the actual truth is about this, and correcting it. Because once that's there, then they've done the best that they can, right? At the end of the day, we can all make mistakes, except that we're human. They've acknowledged it and they've corrected it. Fair enough. You can't ask no more than that. But the thing for me about this, again, is just how impressive, you know, the hash graph is. You know, like, this is where it's like, again, like, the fact that this is something that Leemon Baird is saying that, you know, they can actually do these transactions without time really being the factor, and obviously Hedera potentially being used as a clock for the universe like that. This is pretty big stuff that we're talking about, right? So for me, this is just showing you more how impressive Hedera is. You know what I mean? Like, this has actually turned out to be something where, you know, when I saw this, I actually learned something, rather than like thought, oh, okay, so that's a bit of a chink in the armor. I was like, oh, actually, so no, this isn't a problem, and this is more things that Hedera can do. I'm like, wow, never cease to amaze. You know what I mean? Like, this is one of those things where I'm actually looking at Hedera way more positively off of the back of this. So kind of glad that this was brought to my attention, because I've learned more things. But yeah, once again, just be careful about the media outlets that you follow. I'll just say, to be honest with you at this point, just do your own research on things. You know, like anything that you do here, I think it's best to do your own research. Like, I think you should be checking things, double checking things, you know, because like I say, everyone can make mistakes, and that includes me. I'm not perfect. I'm not here to try and say like I just know everything. I don't. I'm still learning things and stuff like that. I'm just someone that has, you know, like just done as much research as I can into the projects that I believe in, you know, but you know, things are changing day by day, things are evolving and stuff like that, and there's still things happening as we grow into this space and as the space evolves. So again, it's not about the getting things wrong, it's how you deal with it. So just be careful who you watch, and as I say, just do your research. You know, some people will like purposefully deceive you. Some people are doing it on purpose, whereas some people can make innocent mistakes, and that's the difference. Like, people making innocent mistakes, I have no grudge with that. You know what I mean? I understand that people can make mistakes, but there are people out there who are intentionally trying to deceive you. And that goes for the people doing hype content, right? People who are saying like HBAR is going to go to ridiculous numbers and things like that, like $100 and stuff like that in this cycle. All that kind of stuff is the things that you need to be wary of, because those are the people who don't have your best interests at heart. They are just trying to make money, get engagement, and that's the people who, like, yeah, they're a bit dangerous to the community overall. So hope this has helped anyway, but yeah, check it out. Like, really interesting, to be honest with you. So learn something new here, and once again, Hedera showing why they are one of the go-to networks, and even being able to prove Cointelegraph wrong. So whether it was on purpose or whether it was something that was unintentional, either way, it shows that Cointelegraph have got, you know, some learning to do. Whoever it is who's wrote this article, they clearly don't fully understand the network and clearly got some learning to do, because they're not fully informed yet. But hopefully in time they can, and hopefully they'll correct this. I don't think they will, because this was put out around like the 10th of November, so it's been a while since that happened, but we'll see. Time will tell. The only thing you can ask is they do better in the future, right? But yeah, very interesting nonetheless. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell. Take care.